Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth!
Welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. And now, Duke Durango.
Hey everybody, welcome to the Duke You Suck podcast. I am here with a man that took me way too long to get on, but the timing is perfect. He's about to make a huge comeback after recovering from a massive surgery. Bobby Sharp, welcome to the show, man.
Hey, thanks for having me, Duke. Great to be here, bud. It's good to see you.
Man, it's good to see you, brother. I mean, I've just been away, but you were away by accident. kind of.
Kind of. I guess this was kind of it was an accident from the start, but then it was something that just bore and tore, yeah.
So if you don't mind getting into it, what actually, because I mean, I have an idea what you did because I follow your social media and, you know, we've talked, but tell everyone what you did, man. Tell what happened.
So I'll give you the short version of the whole story, but like 2014, 2015 area, we were heading down to Lethbridge for a show from Edmonton. So it's about a 5-hour drive for people that don't know. And we got to Red Deer area. I'm in the back seat as a passenger. So Red Deer's about an hour and a half out of Edmonton. And the driver, I guess, hit the guardrail on the side of the road. I was bent over. I tore the labrum tissue in my hips. So before I get into the whole issue about the hips, basically your hip sits in a socket and all the tissue around is the labrum. It's the same as your shoulders.
Right.
It's a very common shoulder one's very common injury. So me being young and stupid, instead of stopping and saying, hey, something's wrong, we call up my dad, who gets my uncle. They bring us new vehicles, because we got to make the show, right?
Well, of course, you're not missing the show.
So we all load up in the new vehicles. We drive the hour and a half, wrestle in the Lethbridge. We stay the night there. We drive 9 hours the next day. We go wrestle in Moose Jaw. And I had a match with this is kind of important because like I had to wrestle like a bigger match. So it was like I wrestled Colt Cabana for like 25 minutes, which was like the match they wanted. Yeah. So they kind of, and I know people like, oh, Colt style, but that match, he for some reason decided like, yeah, let's go out there and really, really wrestle. I was like, no, aren't you a comedy wrestler? But no, it was. And then
can't I just sell?
Then drive the 9 hours back. So then when we got back, I was like, you know, something's not right. Something's wrong.
So was anything? Were you all swollen up or anything, or just sore?
Like limping, couldn't walk, couldn't really move.
And you're still working.
Yeah. See the limping. I mean, it felt like it was out of place. So I went to a chiropractor and he adjusted it, and I was like, okay. And I started feeling better, started getting around. But my hips would grind.
Right there made my mouth water. Like the
my hips were pretty much like maybe a little extreme, but pretty much like that. So we got them to adjust back to where they needed to go. But then grinding in my hips and everything. So pain when I walk, all that fun stuff. I kept wrestling. I never stopped. I never stopped wrestling.
Friggin' wrestlers.
I still remember when it was like, I got a call from one of my mom's friends. She heard I was in a car accident. And so she calls me and she's like, I have tickets to the next weekend of shows. And so instead of asking me, oh, is the show going to be canceled? She's like, do you want me to give you any painkillers so you could wrestle still? And it's like,
oh my gosh.
Well, I guess it's like it goes. Everybody knows the wrestlers just have to keep going. So, and plus, like at the time, it was my job. I was wrestling to pay for my bills.
That's how you were paying your bills. Yeah, man.
So that's the way that goes.
Yeah.
So time goes on because what the surgery I had in the end was hip replacement, total hip replacement.
Is that right? Hey.
Yeah, total hip replacement. So a lot of people didn't really know how bad it was. I think some people had an idea. I think you had an idea that something was up, but I didn't like. I'm not the type to go and I don't know. To me, it feels like I'm looking for sympathy. I guess
you were no selling it until I pretty much retired. You said your hip really bothers you and something's gonna have to happen.
Yeah, pretty much. Because like it was so the labrum repair. I never got surgery for that.
So for people that don't know, I quit wrestling in 2018. So Bobby, you wrestled with this injury for what, 5 years before things shut down?
Yeah, I've wrestled since
2014.
6 years. I probably had, you know, it's funny, as we were talking, I brought up my match lists in case I forgot any and remember stories. I had 400 and some odd matches after that injury, after that car accident. So, but the thing was with the accident, it was the labrum. So when the labrum healed, the scar tissue, I guess, was so severe that as my hip was grinding, it was wearing the bone down. So I went to the doctor about this because like they were very
so uncomfortable.
It was so common that like basically it would my hip would get stuck and I would move it and it would click so loud just to unstick it, and the pain. Sometimes it would drop me, like I would drop to my knees. It felt like just someone just stabbed me right in my in the inside of my leg.
Bobby.
So anyway, so now I'm all the specialists are doing whatever they need to do, and they're trying to find out what we can do to prolong hip replacement because they said you're going to need it eventually. It's just wear and tear. So their recommendation was they're going to clean up the labrum, do a scope, whatever they got to do, and it should prolong how long I'll need this before I need the replacement in my 40s. So I don't know if you remember, I had this surgery like December. I can't remember when Kurt brought in Cody Rhodes, but basically I missed that show because I had the surgery the day before.
Okay.
I came to the show
Right.
to watch. I came to the show.
Wrestlers are so fucked.
I honestly don't even really remember it. I was just like on crutches the day after surgery. I probably should, but anyway, I wanted to see everybody. And then so the labrum surgery was supposed to help prolong it, and actually I ended up getting a bone degeneration disease. I can't tell you the science behind it or why it happened, but basically instead of
probably just constant stress.
Better.
So, anyways, you started to get the degenerative bone disease.
Bone disease, yes. Break it down. Break it down. Yeah. So it got worse and worse and worse, and so they started doing cortisone injections. And those helped a lot, even though I know the risks, they helped quite a bit. But then in the end, after the third injection, the doctor told me you're starting to create cysts on the bone because the pressure of the bone on bone in your hip is so severe. The cysts are basically how my knuckles look is what your bone is starting to look like because they're starting to create. So he said the cortisone, I think he said like it's not going to work. Basically, we'll put it in there and he goes, it's probably going to crack or pop or something's going to happen and it's going to be worse. So we can't do cortisone for you anymore, basically. So, so that was about 2020. I was before the pandemic, and they're like, okay, you have basically no other option. So it's funny because when my doctor was talking to me about this, he's kind of like, if you feel like it, if you want to put your name into the hat to do the surgery. And then when he talked to my personal physician in private, my hip doctor's like, you have to convince him to get this surgery because he needs it. He needs it now. It's like it's so severe. And then they got me in pretty quick.
Right, hey?
Yeah. So now things are going okay.
Jeez. Okay, so 32 when you had the surgery?
Yes. So July 2021, I was 32.
32 years old. Complete. First of all, I admire. There's always part of me that admires that kind of tenacity that you can work through that. Because I'll be honest with you, man, I don't know if I would. Right. So, but then there's also that part of me that's like, kids, look after yourself. Bobby's a cautionary tale. When it hurts early, go get it looked after because this is a marathon, right? So now, how fast did they tell you can't wrestle anymore?
They had told me at the start that never again is what they told me when I first got it.
Is that right?
Highly recommend. Well, highly recommended that I never do it again. So I would consider that a punch in the gut because I didn't think that basically they told me that after, because before they're kind of like, you should be okay. But then after he's like, it's pretty high risk.
Because if they would have told you before, you wouldn't have done it.
Probably not right away. No, because I wasn't ready.
They work the workers, man.
Because like to me, this wasn't a like it was just pain. I didn't have risk of paralysis, which sounds ridiculous, but it's like, hey, I can live with pain.
Yeah, no, I get paralysis. That, man. If it's not going to get any worse, I can deal with this.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So at first, but then I mean, it was weird because right when I got the surgery and the initial recovery was really slower than a lot of people. Like the first 6 weeks, I couldn't walk. I couldn't weight on it. And then the next, because they originally told me 18 weeks I should be back at work. And by 18 weeks, I think I was just starting to get back into the gym again. But then once I got past getting back into the gym and getting cleared, then the thing started steamrolling and then things started moving fast. And then I started getting like believing that, hey, maybe I can wrestle again because like I feel good. Like it's not, I can't even describe to people. Like, you wake up in the morning, and before I'd wake up and be like, okay, I'm already in pain. I'm not even moving out of bed.
Yeah.
And then it became, if I tweak it, it hurts. And then it became, I can tweak it and it'll only hurt for 20 minutes and then it will go away. And it was like, I haven't felt.
Well, and you learn how to live with it. Right. Like,
exactly.
And your story is even going to be much longer than this timeline, but, and I've said this before, but I remember a specific time through wrestling through, I'll say 2015 through 2017, where I actually didn't, when you wake up in the morning and flex your toes and stretch your arms and your whole body stretches all at the same time.
Yeah.
I didn't do that for over 2 years.
Jeez.
Right. Cause you just have all these little, your ankle sore, your wrist sore. So you can't really stretch one shoulder out, God,
you're gonna,
I was like, man, I forgot. Like, I forgot what a full body stretch felt like. Yeah. So what's it like to wake up pain free every day?
I've been getting up at like 4:30 in the morning, going to the gym.
Really? So you're feeling that good?
Oh God, it's just, because even before the accident, I always had kind of some pain, some issues and stuff. But like, yeah, this is probably the best I felt. So waking up, like, I'm so happy to just feel like that. I don't even have the words to describe it, because like, yeah.
The thing is, like, I'm so happy for you, because people, if you've never had chronic pain like that, people would never understand what it's like to deal with that. It can change who you are.
Yeah. You just get so used to it that you don't even know what it would be like without it, because not having it is one of those weird
well,
feelings.
Again, another, a testimony to your strength. I've known you for a very long time, and I've never seen you take a pill.
Yeah.
I'm not saying you don't take painkillers. I'm just saying a lot of people in your situation would use that an excuse and be pilling up all
crazy.
Day.
Yeah. And that was, they gave me painkillers for the whole experience. And that was almost just to get through work. But like, you reach a point where even that becomes a hassle, stomach is gruggly. You can't really even do it too much anymore. You're tired. Yeah. And then like, taking something like that and trying to wrestle and being in like a fighting environment, I can't do it. You just get boring. You get tired. You get groggy.
Well, it's just uncomfortable.
Yeah.
Right? Like, that's something I can honestly say, like, when I did my knee, they gave me enough Percocets for what they thought I needed. Right. Mm-hmm. But what I did is I took them for like the first couple of days, and all I did was sleep. Do you know what I mean? And finally, the third day, I was like, yeah, I'm done taking those things. Like, I'll just be taking Advil. So then I saved them. So then when I like broke my ankle, I got a couple Percs. Like,
that's a good idea.
And not to get you through, so I could get home from the shows, right? Because I always seem to get hurt in Edmonton and have to drive home 3 hours with a broken, or whatever.
Yeah, something happens. Yeah,
it's
the way it goes though. It's always that car. It's not the wrestling. It's always just the trips in the car after the wrestling that does the damage.
Well, yeah, the doctor's like, oh, you hurt your ankle, elevate it. Yeah, that'll be really easy to do. I drive a 6-speed for the next 3 hours. Even when I tore my ACL, I drove myself home, right? Like, it's just not for me. I did that in Calgary though, not in Edmonton at least, but
still I've done that. I busted my where I needed a huge amount of stitches, and I'm in my gear, and me and my wife were driving. Basically, I drove myself, or my wife wasn't there, so I drove myself to the hospital. Found out it was like a 4-hour wait while I'm sitting there bleeding in the parking lot. So I ended up driving to a Shoppers Drug Mart because my wife was getting off work, which I told her to buy some alcohol wipes and crazy glue, super glue. Jeez, and we'll do the thing. And I was like, well, Sabu used to do it. So we did it and it worked. But like, cleaned it, super glued it. But I drove to the hospital, found it was going to be too long of a wait. So I drove to Shoppers Drug Mart and stitched up in 20 minutes. Or glued up. Yeah.
Wrestlers are
I got a nice star now. But
oh, yeah. And it's a heck of a story, right? Like, how'd you do that? Well, I crazy glued my head back together. Like, And seriously, the only other walk of life, the only place I ever hear stories of people using crazy glue is in like World's Strongest Man when their calluses rip off. You know what I mean? Have you ever watched that? And they'll crazy glue their calluses back on. But you're the only other person in Sabu that I've ever heard do that shit.
Yeah. And that's exactly why I did it. Because I was like, well, Sabu did. If it's good enough for him, it's good enough for me.
Well, I mean, the thing is about Sabu, and people can say what they want about him, that brother had longevity, right? Like, he wrestled a hard style for a long time.
Unbelievable, actually. That guy's beat up, but he was still going, and it was almost like part of his gimmick was how beat up he was. But
yeah, like, he was banged up when he worked Stampede shows.
Then he was Stu Hart's birthday. Was he not there for one of those ones? Like,
he was
like
there for one of
99
those
or
like early
something.
2000s, right, man? And I thought he was banged up then.
Mhm.
I thought, man, how much? And he, he probably still out wrestle me today, that bastard. Unbelievable. All right, so now let's wind it back.
Yeah.
I'm going to come back to the hip because I want to talk about. We'll
Sure.
come back to the hip, but let's get. I didn't realize you started when you were a baby. You're like an Andy Anderson to me,
Yeah.
man. You and Andy Anderson are both guys. I heard your names long before I ever met you guys. Do you know what I mean?
That's pretty crazy.
Yeah, like because like it seems like I didn't really get to know you till like after 2010. Which seems
never
weird
really,
to me for as long as we were both around.
Yeah, we didn't really cross. Like, we did cross paths, but I don't think we really. Because, like, I remember watching you when I was going to the PWA and Stampede shows when I was a fan, like 2000, 2001, 2002.
Right.
And then occasional shows, I think it was just high and by. But then once I joined PWAs, when we started working together.
Okay.
Because I think we were always kind of like the opposite side of the group of guys. Because I always found with Alberta, there was a Calgary crew and an Edmonton crew.
Yeah.
And the Edmonton guys kind of did the thing, and the Calgary guys kind of usually
and even
would
more
be their
I
own
would
little
say was the
carload.
dungeon guys and everybody else.
Yeah.
And let's just not bullshit each other. That's kind of how, and even when I kind of popped my head in there in 2011, you could see there was kind of still the Edmonton crew, the Speckley Calgary dungeon crew, and then the Lance crew. You know what I mean? There was three very distinct parts of that locker room, which is something I thought was cool after that time. Like when I, after 2013, when I really came around, there was no more. It didn't seem like there was any more of that.
No, I feel like
there was
us
old guys and you guys.
Changed, yeah. Well, I just think that everybody stopped saying where they broke in became the only people they can be friends with, because everyone started realizing we'll all have this common interest. Because right around 2012, 2013, I found the cliques of whoever broke these guys in disappeared. Everybody stopped. For sure. Maybe believing somebody else's bullshit, and we're all just kind of like, you know what? Like we're all wrestlers. We're all in this together, and then I found it got a lot more fun, at least, because I found 2010 wasn't as much fun as 2013, 14, 15, and on.
Yeah, that was honestly probably 2013 through 2018 was probably the funnest run I had. You know what I mean? Because we had such a good locker room. We had so much talent. Like early 2000s, I think I was too busy to appreciate it. And then kind of that last 5-year run, man, I squeezed every fucking bit of juice I could out of that fruit, right? Like I had such a good time in that locker room. So so you're a lifelong fan. You've just always kind of watched it on the TV. What made you decide to break in at 14, you crazy bastard?
It's kind of, I guess kind of like it was always on with when my family was involved, but when you're that young, it's not really a thing. But about 1999 though, I started to become overly obsessed with wrestling, watching it, learning about independence, all that normal. Yeah, it was popular, basically the flavor of the month. But as popular as it wasn't very popular at my school. So, and I'm not afraid to admit it, I was the wrestling geek at my school. So basically I had one friend, and it was wrestling is all we talked about. And then as time went on, we got the internet. So then I started joining. It's funny to think about this because this is such an infancy of how people meet each other now. But back then I joined a wrestling, it was like an action wrestling figure news group or forum or something like that.
Okay. And
I joined, and I said I used to live in a town called Sherwood Park, just outside Edmonton. So then another person on that site messaged me out of the blue because he's somebody else from Sherwood Park. So he was really surprised. That was Brady Roberts.
Okay.
So if you remember him from 2001 wrestling. So he messaged me, and we got in contact and started hanging out. And then he had a little group of guys that were all wrestling fans. So we started doing like the pay-per-views together. So it's when I get asked this question later, I say I joined wrestling because I wanted to make friends. To be at the end of the day, I like wrestling.
Well, it's a community, right?
To make friends.
Definitely a community of guys.
Which is funny because there's so many backstabbers, but the ones that are my friends, I'd say are probably friends for life.
Well, and you know what? Somebody told me very early on, and it might have been Ellie Neidhart, that said, if you can get out of the business with 5 true friends, you're doing really well. And I've thought about that recently. I thought, you know what, man, I think most of us could say we've done better than that.
Yeah, I would. I even like when I do like even this post about my recent struggles and stuff like that, how many people would reach out to me that I probably wouldn't have thought would have, made me just realize that I do have more people that care about me than that are in the wrestling business than this old age attitude of like all acquaintances, few friends, which might be true, but I mean at the same time, it seems to be more friends now, more people willing to reach out and stuff
But you know what else
ever
I think
before.
we don't always have, like, you and I haven't physically talked since I probably quit wrestling in 2018. But A, it feels like we haven't missed a beat, and B, we're such a tight community that, and I always hope people know this, that we are brothers and sisters, and if you guys ever need anything, just get a hold of me. Do you know what I mean? If you need it, I'll give you the shirt off my back. And I think that's how most of us are with each other in the business now. Right? Before, everybody was worried. People used to be so worried about their spot. Look, and I hate to kind of bring this up, but to me, if you look at the last really bastion of that shit, was like NWO over in WCW and Brett and Sean in WWE, where guys were like literally cutting each other's throats for that spot. I think that really changed.
Yeah, I agree. Maybe it created some great wrestling for some people to think about, but at the same time, the next generation was probably even better, and they weren't really as cutthroat as some of these guys were. I always found that kind of mentality isn't fun. Like if you're so worried about your spot, you're so stressed and paranoid that you're not really. How much fun are you really having? You even hear about guys like Steve Austin talk about after the fact, when he was on top, he was paranoid, not having fun, and now that he's retired and over, he realized all the mistakes he made and wishes he could do a couple things over
again. You look back and you didn't enjoy it, right? Like you enjoyed it, but you didn't drink it in, right? No. Like it's one of the things that I'm kind of upset about, and I don't want to say regrets, but it's one of the things I'm going to call it a regret, and I have very few in life. But when I broke in, I had no real affiliation with pro wrestling. It was something I just, myself, my brother, and my buddy just fell into. And then we started hearing about the marks, and you start hearing about the fans in a really fucking derogatory way. Do you know what I mean? And so then you start meeting a lot of high profile, I trained at the Dungeon. I met a lot of interesting people there. I never asked one of them for a picture. You know what I mean? I met some amazing people. Like I had dinner with Brett at his dad's house. I did not ask for a picture. Right? Like
I just made
that's retarded. Forgive the expression.
I was just talking to another guy about this the other day, and it ended up on Twitter. He worked a show with Jushin Liger, and he was talking about, man, I wish I got a picture with him, blah, blah, blah. Because Jushin Liger was the first guy that I worked a show with him in Vegas, and I thought to myself, like, unless I'm in Japan, what are the odds that he's going to come to America, United States, or Canada, or anything like that to wrestle? And I love him, and blah, 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 blah. I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm going to ask him for a picture. I don't fucking care. I don't care if anybody sees. So he's being left alone, because usually it's funny. It's almost like the pretty girl. Nobody talks to her, and she ends up, you ask her out, and she ends up being like, nobody ever asks me. He's left alone. So because everyone's intimidated.
Just trying to leave him alone, right? Canadians are anti-celebrity. Will almost avoid the celebrity rather than make that person's life inconvenient.
You think it, and I thought, well, even if I bother him, it's just a picture. So I started talking broken English, asked for the picture, did the picture. Then we just started chatting, and it ended up being like a 35-minute conversation. Every time we'd walk in the locker room, we'd run past each other and so it ended up being something more than just the photo. And I was like, if someone sat there calling me a mark, whatever, I don't care. And
who cares?
Now, 10 years later, I look back at my pictures, and I was like, I got pictures with like Nick Bockwinkel, and I got pictures with Bobby Heenan, and I got pictures with Jushin Liger, and I got pictures with Scott Hall, and it's like, these guys are dead now. And I mean, but I was such a big mark, I became a wrestler. So,
you know what, man? Ellie Hart, I need to have Ellie Hart on this show, actually, because she gave us so many pearls of wisdom in the Dungeon. And I forget which one I was about to tell you. Son of a bitch. I just started thinking about Ellie. Damn it. What were we just talking about? Oh, yeah. Sorry.
Pictures.
You're either mark for the business or you're a mark for yourself.
Oh, yeah. That's a good one. Yeah.
You know what? And so I watched wrestling growing up, and I kind of started watching it when I was in college, when Razor first started to cut his vignettes. Come into, I remember him as Diamond Timothy Stud from WCW. Like I watched enough to know that. But I wasn't what you'd call a huge fan. Like I used to go to Stampede Wrestling and stuff. So then when she said that, I was like, oh, fuck, I must be a mark for myself.
think that's the first thing he said.
Yeah. I owned that at some point, right? It was like, it is what it is, man.
See, that's what I like about my friends in wrestling too. Is that like one of them puts it away is like we're big enough mark for ourselves to also have all our friends take it all away instantly. You know that they're gonna sit there and bury you just as much as you mark out for yourself. That's why we're such good friends. Keep you in line,
grounded, right? And that's why having like, you having your wife in the business, man, she will straighten you out, right? Like I remember we're coming up in Stampede and we're all thinking we're big shots. And my favorite one is we all had these tales of like, oh man, I had to go home and like, clean the litter box after the show. Like, sign 100 autographs, go home, clean the cat box, right?
Yeah.
So then this guy came home and he just finished watching himself on TV on Saturday morning, and Cyborg rules the world was his big, kind of thing at the end.
I know you're talking about. Okay.
You know what I'm talking about? So he shuts off the TV and his wife at the time kind of shuts it off and she goes, yeah, Cyborg rules that pile of dirty dishes in the kitchen. Just like bring you right back down.
Yeah. Snap back to reality, right?
Yeah, 100%. But and that's what's great about coming up with, if you think about that locker room, there was always new people coming in and around, but the core group of guys like yourself, MRB, BVD, of course, now everybody's name is escaping me, but we're talking 10, 12-year guys in that locker room, right? Like that core group has been together for a long time.
And there's probably a solid 6 of us that have been over 15, 20 years at least now. I know I'm probably like the longest. It's funny. I think I might be one of the longest runnings. I think if Chris Steele's still going, and Steve Rivers might be the only 2 in Alberta that might have been wrong longer than I have. There's a couple guys that came and went, but yeah, because like it's funny because me and like MRB, and BVD, and those type of guys in heavy metal were always viewed. We even feel the way where we were the kids of the locker room, and even now we all I even feel like, oh, we're just the kids of the locker room. We're like the 20-year vets, and we're the guys now in the spot that those guys were in before that we followed. But
yeah, that's your locker room now.
Yeah, and which is why I think I hope guys are learning to run things a little bit more efficiently, because I think like I come to the shows now. I'm starting to come to the shows again now that I'm starting to feel better and I'm not going to do anything too risky. And I'm seeing a lot of like guys grabbing the reins to come give advice, but not in the "you must ask me" sense. I find a lot of, "Hey, can I take you aside and I watched your match, I'll give you some advice," and they're almost taking the ball out of the guy's court of asking, because a lot of green guys are really nervous to ask. It's not that they're ignorant; they're just nervous to ask,
for sure.
So that
and the truth is, man,
eliminate that right out the way. Just go right up to them, like, "Hey, I watched your match. Can I give you some advice?" And if they say no, then you'll know never to do it again. But usually they don't. I don't think they've ever said no.
Yeah, no, and that's I've gone to people and asked what they thought, and they lied to my face because I heard otherwise later. So I understand. I understand that trepidation. You know what I mean? Or else I don't know if you got ripped by Jason Anderson like this, but who did he get recently? I just found out at that Saddle Dome show. But he would sit in the locker room and never watch your match, and then you'd come in the back because he was like main event, and I was jerking the curtain. I'd be like, "Jason, watch my match, man." And he's like, "Yeah, Jordan, that was for a kid with your experience, that was probably the best match I've ever seen. Just really pump your tires." Like, "Man, thanks, Jace." Just all puffed up and walking away. And then I've been working for a couple of years now. I'm sitting in the back, and I think I was main eventing against Anderson. And some young guy comes in the locker room like, "Hey, Jace, did you watch my match?" And he gives the kid the exact same speech. But he'd been sitting there with me the whole night. The kid walks away. I'm like, "That's awesome, dirty bastard." And he's like, "You gave me that same speech." He just started laughing.
That's awesome.
But he gave me so much confidence. Never got off his chair, but it gave me a lot of confidence.
Yep. It's just a more morale boost. Probably better than what working your lockup. Well,
Yeah, well, I'd rather you say that than just outright bullshit me,
My least favorite, and this is, I'm not even going to drop names, but there's a couple guys, and if I see someone in person where I won't be recorded, I'll say who did it. A big speech before the show, in a sense of not like, let's stop the locker room, but basically he's all mad that none of these guys asked the vets to watch their match, and that's what's wrong with the business, and that type of mentality. So I don't know if it's me being a smart ass, but I wasn't thinking a smart ass sense, because I went to the guy and go, "Hey, do you mind watching my match?" And goes, "Yeah, that's what I'm talking about. Yeah, I'll watch your match." I go have my match, and lo and behold, I come to the back. "Hey, did you watch your match?" "Oh, sorry, man. I went and stepped out and smoked a joint." I was just like, well, cool. He walks away, and I go to Kay. I go, "See, I told you. Yeah. The guys that say nobody does this are the biggest hypocrites that there is."
Well, You know what, Bobby? You just nailed something. Because I've always said, like, watch the person that stands up in a room and screams the loudest. Go check into their closet. You know, like if I hear a guy stand up and he's screaming, you know, hellfire and brimstone against gay people, I will always look at that person and assume that person.
Yep.
It's just the way
those are the ones usually the most insecure and
well, they feel they've got something to hide,
yeah.
right? So they put up this, they think they're putting up this big fence, like, oh, there's no way I would be gay. Like, you're the first person I think is gay when you talk like that. You know, I don't understand. But okay, so now do you have, I don't know if I should ask you this question. Do you have doctor's clearance to wrestle? Because you're coming back, and that's I'm moving towards this. I'm moving towards this comeback, but I want, what's the doctor say? Yeah.
Well, so he gave me, so basically I went and saw him. We did some tests and stuff, and he was fairly impressed. And so my leave of absence or doctor's notes and stuff have been work related. So these have been very, like, government is very aware of this happening and blah, blah, blah. So I can't just go wrestle on shows and have pictures and blah, blah, blah.
No, 100%. So that's insurance fraud. You don't need any of that shit.
Yeah. So June 23rd is the day he said, because we had to pick a date. So I was like, all right. I'd been talking with some of the local companies, and I kind of wanted, I didn't want to make a big deal of it, but to me, I mean, my confidence was fairly shattered at this point. And for the past, like, time from the injury, I spiraled, and I was really just depressed and blah, 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 and dark.
Which happens anytime you have a major thing like that.
Yeah. I guess, and especially when, you know, I don't see no light at the end of the tunnel, because they said you might be done. And that's what I'm going off of. Cause it's like, to me, it's like, if it fuses to the bone, great. But if it doesn't, I take a bump and it pops off. And I don't even want to think about the amount of pain my bone popping off the titanium hip would be, and stuff like that. And so I took it to heart, because, like, they've never said you'll never wrestle or anything like that again. So, so spiraling out from going from that to basically, like, them being shocked about how much I'm healing and how surprised and how quickly it recovered. So so June 24th, basically they said, give it a shot. You're not going to get any more healthier. You're just going to, like, you can train and get stronger, but you're not going to get any more as far as your hip goes, as far as healthier goes.
Like, it's fused as much as it's going to fuse at this
point. It's pretty much healed. As good as it's going to go. I mean, there's always risk. Yeah. I've tried some chaining and I've tried some bumps, and it doesn't feel too bad. I'm rusty, and I need to really kind of work around how I feel.
Yeah,
but so June 24th.
Back bumps the first match, just back bumps, nothing on the nothing high impact. Like, I'm worried for you.
I did say, though, it's like, if I am, because I was offered to come back. Like, Kurt was really nice about having me come wrestle that Saddle Dome show. He's like, hey, well, we'll hide you 10-man or whatever it was in the corner. At first I thought, oh yeah, that'll be fine, no big deal, because then I literally won't do anything. And then I thought, you know, if this is it, I can't come back, and I'm going to have one match. I don't want it to be hidden in a 10-man or a battle royal. I want to see if I can do one more match. Because if I go out there and this match is kind of like, and I'm in a lot of pain, I'm probably going to slow down and not do it, because I don't want to take a spot from a guy if I can't do singles. Yeah.
I'm going to, as an old man, I'm going to give you this little piece of advice. Don't put too much stock in the first match. You're going to have, you are going to have so many emotions before you get in, and as you climb out of that ring, it can be a total fucking disaster. And as long as your hip holds together, just keep rolling. Do you know what I mean? You're going to put it, because you've been on the shelf for a long time. You're coming back from a major surgery. Your pictures, you look in better shape than I've ever seen you. You look fucking unbelievable. You do, Bobby. You look in amazing shape. So I think the time off has been somewhat a blessing, but don't, like, be excited and really look forward, but please, brother, don't base too much on this first match. Just go out and enjoy it. Just go have fun. Right? Don't think like, oh, if. Just think, I'm going to go have this match, and it's going to be the first time in 2 years, and I'm going to have so much fun.
Yeah,
and beat the shit out of somebody.
That's the only way. It's the way I got to think about it. And, you know, I just want to get through it. I just want to get through that first match, because I already know that, like, the emotions I had in my last match were intense enough, because it's like, even standing in front of in the ring at training or before shows and stuff, like, I missed the actual action of wrestling. Like, you can be like, whatever the politics of the story, but the actual chain wrestling and the bumping and being inside the ring,
the physicality of it is so good.
Yeah, I missed it. I missed it so much. I mean, if I can never wrestle again, I might just do like sparring and jiu-jitsu just to still be able to do something like it. But I'm not ready to stop. So I think I'll be good.
The thing is, you're
pretty
still
confident.
you've been doing it for 20 years. You're still a young man. Like,
and my first, you're asking because like I first started training 2001. I was 12. Had our first match.
12. I thought you were 14.
No. 14 was my first match.
Okay.
So, because like we started. Do you remember? Here's some Alberta wrestling history. There was a company that ran Edmonton Sherwood Park area called CCW, ran by Robert O'Keefe. He used Stampede guys. I would have assumed you might have done a show or two.
I think
maybe
Robert O'Keefe. Was that?
He would have run Reds in Edmonton, where they had the big screen. It was 2 floors. It was like a arcade
Who was
place.
the guy that came to the ring with the teddy bear on a chain?
The Orderly.
Was that
Dylan Powers?
Were those his shows?
Yeah, he was the booker.
Okay, yeah, I worked
them, and Robert was the money
shows.
guy.
Yeah, I worked one of those shows, and he treated me like an asshole, and I never went back.
He was a piece of shit. Yeah,
and I'm not like
even looking back. Yeah.
Well, this is the God's honest truth about the Orderly or Dancing Dylan Powers, as some people also might know him as. And I'm not saying this to take the piss. This is just the true story. I came up there. I was working for fucking peanuts. Like he was honestly. Now, Bobby, at that time, I'd left Stampede. So I was a main event guy in Alberta. And I'm not saying I was the best, but I was easily a main event guy in Alberta. He's offering me fucking peanuts to go there. And like, honestly, like, oh, what's your name again? Pulling that shit on me. So then I go work the show. At that time, you know, of course, my pay gets cut in half because, you got to buy your wrestling license now.
Yeah,
so
Edmonton for you.
Yeah, and Calgary did it too, but it would have been cool to be upfront about it, right? Like,
it would have been nice to know.
Right. So then at the time, PWA had run maybe 3 or 4 shows. You know what I mean? They hadn't run that many shows. Kurt phones me, like quadruples my pay. And at that time, hey, I'm just an independent. Like I have no loyalty. So I basically phone him. I give him a ton of notice. Like, hey, I'm not going to work a show. I've been offered a lot more money to go do this. And, Kurt stiffed me a little on the pay, but it came out in the long run. But, at the same time, Kurt, the first thing Kurt did right is made me feel like a somebody, right? Where this guy was treating me like an asshole. And then I seen him years later, man. I don't know, like maybe the last day of the dungeon kind of thing. I just ran into him somewhere and he basically blamed me for that promotion closing. So yeah, I'm familiar.
It was all your fault.
Yeah, because I went to PWA and a lot of the other guys did too.
It was I think our friend Dylan had a lot to do with it. Here's a story about him just to give some perspective on this gentleman. Yeah. So everybody, there's another local wrestler named Insane Irishman, which is Chris Koenig. He's retired, slowing down now. I think he's coming back, but he was around this time too, because me and him broke in kind of like together, but he had been wrestling a little bit longer than me. But he was going out to Prince George for the Maulers company around this time, Dylan and Chris Irishman. And he had told Irish, you're paying your dues. So, you got to drive out there, pay your own gas kind of thing, wrestle for free and come back. And this is how you pay dues. So he might have done this 3 or 4 shows. Mauler was giving Dylan an envelope, which had a payoff for Dylan, a payoff for Chris, and all their gas. And he was pocketing the entire amount of money. Yeah. And then, once Chris found out, he never saw him again. Basically, Dylan just vanished. This is
greasy.
Yeah. There's a lot of stories about that guy. He also, when Massive Damage, King Lao, and Max Power were going to start Monster Pro, they originally approached Robert O'Keefe and Orderly there about, instead of starting something, they'll just buy into the company and continue the growth.
Okay.
Dylan, as you see here, the reason why he did things like bury you is because he's very like competitive. He needs to be the king in each room he's in. I gotta have the biggest dick in this room. So he basically, Massive was explaining what their training would be, and Dylan said something along the lines of, "You want to teach these kids to shoot, then you will go outside and we'll shoot right now." And he pulled out a switchblade.
Are you fucking?
And then Massive's kind of like, "What is this guy's like?" It wasn't even like an issue of like, let's fight. It was a business meeting, and he just got so defensive. And by then, like, you know what? No business. We don't. You guys are on your own. Because this guy is just in that shit
gimmick.
Crazy. Yeah. Yeah. No kidding. Oh.
Interesting. And it's, you know what, man, there's all kinds of, and that's one thing I'll say is, a lot of those carny type assholes are out of the business now. A lot of those fucking carnies like Dylan Powell.
I think you just can't do that anymore. No. I think a lot of it is actual sponsors recognize it more than ever before, because these carnies will burn sponsors, burn venues and stuff like that. And I think more people on the business side recognize it. They don't even get started because
well, and that's the thing. Like there was a long time in Calgary, man, you could not. Like, good luck finding some sort of corporate.
I'd say there's still carny issues, but not. Yeah. Or like even some of the reservations outside of town. I don't know if wrestling will ever go back to Hobima again in places like that, just for shit that people pulled in the past.
Yeah, I mean, we went in Hobima, man, we drew probably way too much heat. I won't get into the whole story. But I ended up that's the infamous the ball but started a riot, and I had to, my wife went and I picked my wife up in Pinoca because I wasn't bringing her out to the car with me.
Was that the one where it was in the paper? It was like Stampede Wrestling Family Entertainment. We think not, and they talk about.
See, I did not know that. No one told me this. Yeah, because the next show we went, whatever venue we were in, honestly was packed, standing room only. And we went back and there was like 100 people. I was like, what the hell happened?
I heard that whatever happened at the show, I'm not too sure, but the newspaper, I saw the newspaper because there was a guy named Steve Hooper that had it. It said Stampede Wrestling, Family Entertainment, and then ... we think not. And then a whole write-up about how it was offensive or racist or something like that.
Okay.
I know what the version of the story is, but I don't know if it's true. So I don't know if I really want to repeat it.
I'll give you the quick rundown. So I went out, I wrestled early, earlier in the card. Johnny Devine and Red Thunder main evented the show. So right away, Johnny Devine, short, as white as you can be, not necessarily short, but as white as you can be, ginger, great heel, right? That kid could draw heat anywhere. And then he had me out there with him. So we're stirring the crowd up pretty solid. They have a match, and I can't remember anything about my match, and I don't remember anything in particular about their match, but I will never fucking forget this finish. So the finish was, I come out with like a handle that would go around a weightlifting bar. You know what I mean? Like just a light aluminum sleeve almost. So they're having the match. They start going into the hot comeback. I pull out the aluminum sleeve, crack it off the post to make sure the fans hear it's real metal. I fired into the ring to Divine. Divine goes to hit Thunder with it. Thunder ducks under. Small package is Divine. As Divine's getting pinned, he tucks the gimmick into Red Thunder's trunks. And I'm pretty sure now that I'm saying this, I think we did have a white ref. So this is to see where we're going.
Yep.
I tuck it into Thunder's trunks. Or sorry, Divine tucks it into Thunder's trunks. 1, 2, 3. The crowd pops. Thunder wins. The crowd goes wild. We should have.
Yeah, this is his hometown too, by the way. Yeah.
Oh yeah, we should have left, but the office wants to draw heat for the return. So I jump up on the apron. I point out the gimmick in Thunder's trunks. Ref comes over, pulls out the gimmick, yada, 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 DQs Thunder. The crowd is in.
No.
He takes the gimmick, hits me with the gimmick. As I'm going down, I kind of catch my foot on the bottom rope because none of that was really planned.
Yeah.
I catch my foot on the bottom rope. I fall down, hit my head on the ground. And so I'm selling. Divine comes over and he goes, we got to get out of here, man. And I look up and I can't see the locker room because the people are starting to come towards us. They're throwing full cans of pop at us.
Yep. Been there. Yeah.
That was the finish.
See, and it's funny because like, as we put this in a little bit of context, without context, it's like, well, that sounds like a good finish. But for you and me, like when you wrestle in a lot of the Aboriginal communities, I don't want to say it's different, but there's specific things you're a little more cautious, man. Well, you treat, as a heel, you work with a little more respect. Yeah, there's still a lot of rightfully justifiable too. People there that still feel a lot of racism towards the Aboriginal 100%. Community. So when they see, like, that's why you said the white ref, because when they saw it, to some of the people there, they view it as, oh, great, another 3 guys white men putting on a show that's supposed to be entertainment, but they're showing the Aboriginal being held down again.
Yep.
These guys, let's do something, something
and I look at, like, I have goosebumps as we're sitting here talking about it, because at the time I was too ignorant to that. Do you know what I mean? Literally, it didn't kind of dawn on me. Like, you seen the light bulb come on just now. Oh shit, we had a white ref too.
Here, I actually got one, a pretty interesting story about something similar to this, about a northern tour. We go up to the northern communities in Manitoba. So we do these death tours, and we usually do like every community has a radio station, television station, which is like the local, just to stay in contact with the community, whatever. So we do interviews on the radio to advertise the show that evening. So we have a girl on the crew with us. Her name's Violet. I don't know if she still wrestles anymore, but she's like a pretty unintimidating, you wouldn't think twice about her type of girl. So we're all doing the promos. Slammer does a promo, and Slammer does things that try to make us laugh in his promo. So he's talking about how he's going to slam a kid or something, stuff like that. So everyone's like, ha ha ha. She comes on to do her promo, and she basically goes like verbatim, yeah, everybody here is really ugly, and I'm so much better than them, and I'm so much better looking, and I'm going to win. And then she walks off because she's green. So we're all like, whatever. Oh. So Tony's talking, and the phone rings. The guy at the phone's like, Tony, you need to take this call. He's trying to know. She's like, no, Tony, you need to take this call. So I'm watching him. He's on the phone. And then whoever he's talking to is like, hello? Oh, I'm sorry. She didn't mean that. Like, she's not saying that your kid's blah, 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 like trying to apologize. And I come to the other room and I go, there's a lot of heat right now. And everyone's like, what did Slammer do? I was like, not Slammer. I point to Violet, and everyone just kind of like looks over and goes, what? So Tony comes on and goes, I just want to make something very clear that she was not saying that your kids are ugly. She was not saying that she is better than anybody of this great community, and starts baby facing it up. So what the woman said on her phone was, how dare that white bitch come to our community and say that my kids are ugly, and say that my kids aren't as good as she is, and say that like, but, and really, really made a big stink. They were going to cancel the show because I believe she was on the council, and she was pretty turned off by what this girl said.
See, and it was just so honestly, you would say, I would say that in a saddle them tomorrow without even thinking about it. Do you know what I mean?
No, yeah, it was
in different contexts. You can't say that shit.
When we did the show, I got his heat though, because when we did the show, she was managing Slammer. So when Slammer wrestled me, she was supposed to be ringside.
Right.
We had to change it where she had to manage from inside the ring in the corner because the kids kept ripping her back and pulling her hair and slapping her and stuff. So I got her into the ring. We'll just stay in the corner and pretend you're outside the ring because we can't have you on the floor. You're getting beat up. But it was just from that. And, you know, it's like you said, I was ignorant to it. And then once I heard it, I was like, you know what? Yeah. Like, she came across really, really, really ditzy, you know.
Yeah.
So.
And in certain places you can get away with that shit. But when you are dealing with a population that people have been fucking with them their whole lives, you got to kind of lighten that up.
Yeah. And we don't think about it because that's that luxury. I'd even say it's a bit of white privilege. You don't think about it like that because
I didn't, honestly, man. I don't know if you watched the one I had Wavell and a lady named Sequin Henneque that he introduced me to. And I said, I don't understand white privilege. Like, can you explain it to me? And that was it. She's like, the fact that you have no idea is white privilege. I was like,
yeah.
Right. But yeah, it took me, you know, like I said, I mean, I wrestled that match in Hobima probably 23 years ago now. And it just dawned on me, we fucked him over with a white ref. All of it, everything else, not sure I remember, but I just like, we would have had a white ref too. That makes it worse. Yeah.
It just looks like you guys ganged up on him. It just looked like you were putting on a show to gang up on him.
Yeah. So and then you tell me the article is like, oh man, we killed the town. We literally killed that town.
Yeah, I don't think if wrestling went back there, it wasn't done with the permission of the council and community, which is what you need to do to even draw a crowd of those places. If you got to
get them to sign on.
Yeah, because then they'll help you bring people out, and it's also, I mean, a little disrespectful to go to a community and just run a show without telling anybody. You want to draw a crowd, right? So,
well, no, and I think too, there's a bit of a responsibility now. You know, one of the things I really like about golf, just to kind of go off on a bit of a tangent, one of the things I like about the PGA Tour is that all the tournaments that you see are not for profit. So the players are paid, the expenses of the tournament get paid. But everything else, all of the money made from the tournament goes back to the local communities. So the PGA Tour has donated like 1.3 or 1.4 billion dollars to charity since its existence.
Incredible.
Now that you and I are having this conversation, I think there's a responsibility to the promoter to go and not just inform the band they want to run the show, to probably work with the band and find a way to give back to those
band office. Yeah.
You know?
Yeah, I agree. There's some too that we do where there's a gentleman by the name of Chris Thorne, and he's basically the Candello of Ontario. So he runs northern communities, and we're talking like 200, pre-pandemic, 200 shows a year in these communities. But he does a lot of shows like that where he has a style of show that he sells. So he does like a bot show, a run off the gate, or a charity show. And that's exactly what the charity show is. So basically, we come to whatever, and they split the gate 50-50, and then all the money we earn goes towards the school or it goes towards the band office. And then you end up, it ends up being just a school fundraiser that just so happens to be a wrestling show. I even remember one time we had 2 shows in a day, but we were the lunch hour wrestling show. So we set the ring up the night before. We slept in the room where people put like their bags or their basketballs after they play gym.
Oh, okay.
We
Yeah.
geared up, woke up at like 10, started gearing up, and had an entire show for the entire school at noon while they were on lunch break until 1 o'clock, and then geared down, tore the ring, drove an hour to another community, and had another fundraiser that night.
Man, and did you like? I did a couple of
Wild.
those school shows, and not in First Nations communities, but just locally here. Those were actually some of the favorite shows for me. Working those noon student council fundraisers, and some teacher would get involved. Those were always so fun.
That's exactly what happened with ours. The teacher pulled the knucks on him. The principal might have pulled the knucks.
Pull the knucks on the teacher?
No, I pulled the knucks on my opponent, and the principal pulled them off my hand.
Oh, I see.
And then I turned into whatever the finish was from the guy, and then I believe he said I'm in detention or something, and then they threw me in a room where the kids go for detention. Nice. So it was something ridiculous. But
I bet it got a huge pop.
Oh yeah, and these were like 1 through 6, so we're not trying to deal with high school students.
No, like, man, and that's the stuff. Like when you can work a crowd like that, those to me are the funnest crowds. Like because they're so into it.
And that's what I always think is great. Like when they communicate and react back to me, I almost like in my mind, I go, I'm going to reward you for interacting with me and interact back. And then you find that they usually stay involved. But then once it grows and grows and people are interacting and you're giving them more and more and more, I think that makes a live event so much more fun. And people can tell the more interaction, especially with the wrestlers that do it. Cause like sometimes I'll see some guys, that's actually my biggest complaint about now. Cause the wrestling is so good.
You literally just took the words out of my mouth, Bob.
It's almost too good where they're forgetting that there's a crowd, but it's like, if you kept the wrestling all the same and added in crowd work, you would have had something amazing,
I agree 100%. Like I watched, I'm going to get some heat for this for sure. I watched that Saddle Dome show, and every match athletically was as good or better than anything I could have ever done in my career. And I want to make that abundantly clear. But it was also abundantly clear that on that roster, there was only about 4 or 5 of us that are true entertainers at this point. Do you know what I mean? That the wrestling's important, man, but you got to use the wrestling to get to the entertainment. And if you, because man, that's the fucking talent out there is so good. Now we just got to find a way to get them to make an emotional connection with the crowd.
Yep.
Because the talent, my gosh, the wrestling. Some of the kicks and punches are still pissing me off, but the athletic abilities there, the athletic abilities there.
Those are also those little things that, like, I would say goes with that crowd work, where it's like those are the moves are absolutely incredible. The athleticism is something. Like I couldn't do half the stuff they did. I see some of these guys do.
I wouldn't even think about doing half the shit these guys can do.
But then once they forget about the crowd and they don't make that emotional. I was even speaking this to a couple kids. I don't remember who they were, which sounds bad, I know, but come on.
Right.
But they were the first match and they went balls to the wall, like 5 false finishes, all this crazy stuff in the first match and in front of about 65 people in red gear.
Right.
So after I was talking to them, I was like, how did you like your match? He's like, oh, it was great, blah, 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 blah. I was like, so don't you think it was a little much? And he's like, well, no, I don't. And then I had to explain. And I was like, well,
no, I don't.
Think about it like this. And the first thing I had to say was, okay, like the moves physically were all fine. Like they were actually incredible, but you did like a second rope diving cutter and it was a 2 count. And I go, if that was a finish, that would have been perfect. But then you guys kept going. And I go, think about it like now every other match has to top that or the flow of the show is going to go uneven. I go, I know you're an individual wrestler, but this is still a team effort. We're actually, you might not think about it like this, but the show is a team. We're all a team because
we're building.
The first match needs to be here. Yeah. The whole show needs to build in a certain direction. Sometimes the guy running it doesn't take as much control as maybe they should, or some notice, which that falls on them. But at the same time, it was also said to the kids too. It's like, and plus think about where you are. You're in front of 65 people in red gear and you guys just did 15 absolutely insane bumps off your bump card. This isn't Chicago. This isn't, a company that's really going to give you an opportunity. This is just, you're trying to get learning how to walk and talk and react in front of a crowd. So you actually did like a big pop and your falsies built down because that one was so impressive. Right. And then it started clicking with them a little bit more. It's like, like it's just a matter of knowing where you are too. There's so much more to psychology than just a 4-step match. There's so much more. It's
Well, and that's the one thing it took me a long time, to be honest with you, is to get out of that. The basic concept of babyface heat, heel takes over, come back, go home. It took me a long time to get out of that bullshit. Right. And finally, we'd literally just go in the match and be like, okay, you're over. Yeah. Jordy takes 60%. And that would be the story we told that night.
Yep.
You know what I mean? And I fight.
I found that's when I learned how to get all those 4-step. When I started working with guys too, that were like, let's just call it in the ring. I found like I couldn't call a 4-step match, like, because you're just doing not whatever, but you're just flowing with basically the crowds. This sounds weird to people that don't do it, but you'll know what I mean. Basically, the crowd's telling you what to do.
100%.
When you say it like that, people are like, how is that? Like, are they controlling? It's like, they're not controlling the tempo. They're just telling us what they want to see. And we're kind of delivering
their reactions are telling me what they want.
Yeah.
Well, and tell me that you've done this before. Myself and Pistol Pollock used to have this high spot. It was about 8 fucking things. It was just after we had it so ingrained, it was just called the spot. It was tackles and drop downs and fucking
I start naming
reverse hip toss, flips, and all of the above. And you'd go into towns and you'd hit that high spot, and the fans would pop. So you'd be like, man, we got the best spot in the league. Then you'd go to the next town and do that, and the fans would do nothing. And you'd punch the guy in the face and they'd pop. Well, if you called 20 minutes of that flippy flip, runny run, you're in deep shit now, aren't you?
Yeah. And then I laugh because some guys, once you're in that situation, some guys get lost and they don't know what to do when they can't. I've been in situations too where like I've been in the ring and I'm supposed to be the heel, and then for whatever reason, these are usually on reservations and stuff, for whatever reason they booed my opponent. We were just like, you know what? And we've switched whole shows where it's like, because I was the heel, I'm coming back in the tag. We've switched the whole show. I'm now the face going over, coming back in the tag, just because it's like, they already showed us who they want to cheer and boo. Let's just switch it and do it this way instead. And then,
especially at spot shows, right? Like it's, if you're at spot shows, who cares? And half of those people that are going to, the truth is, guys and gals, you're not going to want to hear this, but if there's a 15 to 20 person roster, the fans will probably remember 2 to 3 people on there. They'll remember the matches. They'll remember your match, but they won't remember who you were. They'll be offended.
And it's funny. They'll probably remember the most colorful person, or they'll probably remember the most unique person, or they'll probably remember if there's usually one girl. Now there's more, but if there's a girl, they'll remember the one girl or 2 girls. That's usually what they remember,
Yeah.
On the casual fan too, not the hardcore one, but
the hardcore fans know anyway, right? Like actually, I walked into a store the other day. I couldn't believe this. I walk into a store and I'm looking at something and I hear, Duke Durango, what are you doing in here? And I turn around and I just look to the guy going, how the hell do you know who I am?
I find it awkward. I also find it awkward. Do they call you Duke Durango, your full name kind of thing? Because
man.
When I meet fans, they call me Bobby. And Bobby Sharp is my real name for people to know. But
I didn't know that. I assumed it was a gimmick.
Robert's my real name, but Bobby is. I like Bobby, and I've been going for it forever. But because my name is Bobby Sharp, and wrestling fan, and I wrestle as that, I'll have fans like, "Hi, Bobby Sharp, how's it going?" It always throws me off. It's like, okay, because then at least I know. It's like, all right, if you say Bobby, you know me personally. If you say Bobby Sharp, you're a wrestling fan. I got you. Okay. But it's like, "Hi, Bobby Sharp, how's it going?" Oh, okay.
The first time I ever got recognized, I was walking through Walmart. I used to take the bus to work, and I was wearing I wore like a company uniform at this office furniture place. And it was navy blue shorts and a blue top. We all look like male staff. And I'm walking through this little First Nations boy comes rolling up on me, looks up at me. He's, couldn't have been more than about 8. Yeah. He just looks at me and he says, "Hey, you're that wrestler guy, aren't you?" I was like, "Yes, I'm that wrestler guy."
Yeah. So, and that's even what we said too. It's like, they might not remember you, but they remembered you wrestled.
It made me laugh. Now, the funny part of that gimmick is I was a little embarrassed because it was the first time I'd ever been recognized, and I honestly didn't know how to handle it. And so I don't like it.
Yeah.
Well, he says, "I'm going to get my brother." I powdered out of there so fast.
Yeah. I work at a hotel. I'm doing maintenance, and I got recognized going to a guy's room, and he was like, his cable was out. I'm going to fix his cable, and I do what needs to be done. And tell him, all right, it's all good to go. I'm gonna leave. He goes, "Hey, is your name Bobby Sharp?" I'm like, oh my god. Like, yeah, who are you? He's like, he was a Saskatoon wrestling fan, so he knew all the HAW guys. But it's just so awkward that so basically he pays to watch me wrestle, and then basically he's at work now and I'm fixing his cable, and it's
in a
tables
sense
have
he's still
turned, you
paying.
know?
He paid for the room.
Paid to see me, you know.
But can you imagine? I'll guarantee it, and this sounds funny, but that guy I guarantee that guy reached out the minute you left that room. He reached out to a couple of
I got low power. There you go. Yeah.
Okay. I guarantee he reached out to a couple of his buddies and said, "Man, I just saw Bobby show."
Yeah. Yeah, he had the next show. He said he's like, "Yeah, remember me? We saw it at the hotel." I was like, "I'll never forget."
I'll never forget.
Nope.
That's hilarious. That is hilarious. All right, man. Well, let's June 24th is the return date.
Yeah.
What's the promotion? Where are you working?
So for Love Pro Wrestling there, the Rec Room, it's gonna be Edmonton, Alberta.
My good friend Spencer Love. I love that.
Spencer Love. Don't have it off the address off the top of my head, but you can definitely contact me to get tickets. This is the big one.
Some links from Spencer. He'll give me all that shit.
I'm pretty excited. You know, I've wrestled there's so much work right now. I almost had pick of the litter, so to speak, where I wanted to go. And I mean, a lot of companies are running a lot of shows. I wanted just to pick somewhere different. Someone reached out to me and pitched me a couple ideas and like some agreements, and
right.
I'd rather ease back in, like you were saying, like have one match, not because like the moment I posted that picture, I got five guys.
Oh yeah, man, I got a 1-year program ready for you.
Yeah, let's ready to roll, and which I am ready to roll, but I also want to take it easy. I'm not after quantity anymore. I don't want to have because before it was just matches to get money, and now I want quality. I don't want to say quality because they were quality before, but if
no, you always had quality guys. I think I'm going to say what you mean. You're coming back for a reason, and it's not just experience.
Yeah, I don't need to get just 1,000 more matches. I've already had 1,000 matches. Now I just want to have matches with my guys I want to wrestle and have good contests and have purposeful storylines or angles or however you want to put it. And then with Spencer, like I went and checked out the show. It was unique. It was different. It was a great production. Like it was a super solid venue. A lot of the guys I thought killed it. It was a great show overall.
Well, kid's attitude, man, his enthusiasm is infectious.
Yeah. Like the guy loves pro wrestling, and he really goes far. And he does this all for peanuts. I'm guaranteed. I don't ask him what he gets paid, but I know it's not much. I know what I get paid. So
let me tell you what I told him when he said he was going to run our show. I said, "Oh, I didn't know you hated money."
Yep.
Right. If you hate money, become a wrestling promoter. Yep. But the truth is, from what I talked to him, it does sound like he's doing something right. He's building something. No disrespect to anybody running, because everybody in Alberta works really, really hard at what they do. But there's something different, I think, about what he's doing.
I don't know what it is, but there's something a little bit more interactive, I guess. It's different. It's a different show.
And he's passionate, man.
Similar guys, but it's a different show. Yeah.
Well, and the other thing is he's not a wrestler. Like he just wants to promote shows. He just wants everybody to love wrestling the way he does. And that's pure, man. Like I respect that.
Yeah. That was one of the reasons I wanted to hop on board, because it's like, I think it's funny because it's like, I love wrestling above and beyond so much. I talk about it and watch it all the time. And I think like, there's so many other people that aren't wrestlers that do too, that I don't really communicate and talk with. So it's like, we have this interest. So why don't I reach out a little bit more?
Yeah, for sure.
Now that I'm coming back into wrestling, I'm reaching out to, like, even something like this. I didn't want to do any podcasts or any interviews and anything like that while I was injured, because I was just so depressed about being away that I thought something like this would be like too hard. It would be almost, I wouldn't be able to do it. I would be thinking too much about it.
Well, part of me waited to see where your recovery went, not because I knew there was, I didn't know there was a chance you may or may not wrestle again. I just thought it's so hard getting through that process. I wanted you to finish that. And when you're ready to come back, I wanted to be the first one to get chatting with you, right?
And you were, yeah. And I mean, even while I was recovering, at one point, I got a call from my friends, from Ron Hutchinson, actually. And usually when we start talking on the phone, I get up and I walk around while I'm talking. And we started talking about like whatever, psychology and spots and stuff. And I started getting excited and moving around and getting anxious. So we finished the phone call, put it down, and then my hip is just throbbing. And I'm like, I can't even talk to someone about wrestling without like moving and trying to do stuff and walk through the motions and start sweating, getting excited. It's like, I can't even go to shows. I gotta, yeah, exactly. I had to pull myself completely away or I wouldn't have recovered.
Yeah. And the truth is, that's one of the reasons I've only been to 2 shows, I think, since I stopped wrestling. And people are like, well, why don't you come to the shows? Well, first of all, I did one show in a complete, couldn't have been more of a gimmick. I got 3 different people asked me to wrestle after that. So there's that. And the other thing is, I'm still so passionate about doing pro wrestling that I don't have an outlet for that. So I know if I spend too much time at those shows, it's just a matter of time before I'm a manager or a guest ref or a commissioner. And it's just a matter of time before I'm in a match.
Yeah. Yeah. And then you're back in. Then it's almost like I already did the withdrawals. I'm already over that. Now I'm like, then you're taking it again and you got to go through withdrawals all over again.
Yeah.
Yeah,
well, I haven't told exactly a lot of people this. I didn't unpack my actual bag from the last show. I didn't unpack it for over a year.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. I think TJ and I had this conversation because I threw it in the closet. I was telling him about that. I said, I still haven't unpacked my bag. And he told me at that time his last bag was still packed. It was a weird conversation. Like, we both kind of refused to unpack that bag. But I think we both have now.
Yeah. I kept my bag packed. I threw all my gear in the bag, and I kept it packed too this whole time. I just didn't. I ordered new boots, so I don't know if you remember my old taped up boots, but now I have new boots for this one. I finally ordered new boots, so
that's one thing I would like to see a lot of the kids. Good boots aren't cheap. I don't know what you paid for yours, but I got mine made. What's that?
$300.
Okay, I paid $7.
Okay.
Yeah, they were. But my last boots that I paid $7 for, I wrestled, if you consider all the battle royals and everything like that, probably about 1,800 matches in that. Well, I'll say 1,600, and then I got new boots. I wrestled a lot of matches in those boots, so I had no problem.
I only had, I think like 1,400 matches. I've only had three pairs of boots. This was my 4th pair ever. Yeah, and if you take care of them and they last, you know what you're doing. But the first pair of boots were high spot boots. I think they lasted like 12 matches. And then I went custom. I got RD wrestling boots, who I think's retired now. He's a Canadian bootmaker. He made me the white pair. Those ones lasted probably 600-700 matches. And then there was a bootmaker in Edmonton that made my last ones. And those ones, I can't even say they lasted because I was using hockey tape. Because it's funny, I had it in my head. I knew I was injured. And that was part of because I thought if I get new boots, I'm going to spend all this money and then find out I can't wrestle again post-surgery. So I was like, I'm going to keep taping these boots and not get new boots until I'm ready to come back from the surgery. And now here I am. So
June 24th, obviously in Edmonton with Love Pro Wrestling, the return of Bobby Sharp and the debut of new boots. This is
damn time.
This is excellent. All right. What's your social? How can everybody give you a follow?
All right. So Twitter is Lion Warrior AB. At Lion Warrior AB. I have Instagram. It's Bobby Should Get Insta because I made it as a joke a long time ago and I haven't changed it.
That's a great name,
think Bobby should get Instagram, but it's Bobby Should Get Insta as my Instagram. And then my Facebook, I believe, is like facebook.com/Lion Warrior Bobby Sharp. And I'm actually going to start updating my Facebook page again now that I'm back at it. Keep things. I got to keep a social media presence. That's something I'm not used to because that was never a thing until last 10
generation
years or
was
so.
Horrible at that.
And then I'd already kind of been doing stuff before there was I remember when when I got it's weird to say I got but somebody made a Wikipedia page or updated one for me. And then all of a sudden it went all over to all those internet,
really?
Whatever sites, because they just copy each other's information.
I see.
So we were training out in Windsor. So I was having a meeting with Scott Demore and Divine. We were just sitting, the three of us are sitting in the office. We walk out and the whole class is there waiting. And there's this one new kid and he sees us and his jaw drops. And he's just doesn't know what to say. Apparently he was really talkative until he saw all three of us. He doesn't know what to say. He's being really shy. He wrestles with me and he's really nervous and he's doing whatever with me and this and that. And my wife, Kayla, sees it and she kind of pulls him aside. She's like, why are you acting like this? You used to be so confident and nervous. I was like, you're why are you being so weird around Bobby? He goes, because he has a Wikipedia page.
You made it when.
She just starts laughing. Or I was like, and then I'm kind of I have a what? Oh. And I was like, okay, so obviously someone made one for me, has no information. But hey,
and that's how it goes, man. I've got a very, very good friend. His whole family are good friends of my wife, but Dwayne Soper.
Oh yeah,
you're familiar with Dwayne?
From
Literally, I get an email one day on my Hotmail account. You need a website and a link. and he built me this website. I think it was a GeoCities. But yeah, he built me a website.
Old
He
school,
pulled
yeah.
some images and just built me a website.
Yeah.
And he's like, now you got a presence on the internet. And I'm like, what?
Yeah.
So then, fast forward a year or two, he's like, man, here. And he sends me, what the fuck was before Facebook?
MySpace.
Yes. He
What
sends
it
me a
was.
MySpace.
Oh, geez.
Yeah. And then I'm like, what the hell is MySpace?
Yeah.
And he did all this stuff. And I think he did them for like Harry and TJ and a whole bunch of us. It was like, man alive, if I would have promoted myself half as much as somebody like that, I might have actually fucking made it.
Yeah, right.
Like I didn't realize until the other day, I never sent out one tape. I never sent a single tape to anybody. If anybody saw me wrestle, it was on someone else's tape.
That's funny.
It's weird.
I was around. I've sent out VHS tapes and promo pictures. I was around during those days.
Is that
You know what's
right?
funny? It's like everyone always says send out tapes. I don't recall actually getting booked on a tape, to be honest. Usually it's a friend would get me a spot or a picture.
Usually,
and then you would
talk
talk to them or something. Yeah. Yeah. Or they would have watched one of your matches at a show. It never ended. Despite them saying send tapes, I don't think I ever got a booking out of sending a tape. Just a blind audition type of thing.
There was a good run where a bunch of guys. Do you remember when a bunch of guys from Alberta were going over to England and they do 3 months?
For All Star or whatever out there.
Yeah, so I sent a picture over. It didn't like my look because I'm a cheeseburger picnic, whatever. So I kind of was a little bit snide in my reply back, like, "Good job, you brought all the bodybuilders, but you left the worker at home." And they asked somebody else there who put me over quite strong, and then they came back and said, "Okay, send us a tape of your work," and I fucking didn't bother.
That's amazing. Yeah, well,
Yeah,
that's the thing is that it's really going to make a difference. Like you have a guy put you over and then they still want to see a tape. It's like, well, how are they really going to watch the match? And you always hear that story where it's like, do you put a match on it or do you put like a highlight reel? Because you always hear like, they never watch matches. They never watch highlight reels. Don't put an entrance. Remember to have your entrance. And you're like,
right? Do a vignette. Like, what? You want me to film a movie?
Yeah, right. Vignette of my character. Oh.
Yeah, it seems
to
like
get booked for like to get booked for Old River City in front of 50 people, okay.
Yeah.
But yeah.
Done deal, man. I'll take a week. Yeah, I don't. It's so much. These kids today don't know how easy they have it with fucking YouTube.
God, YouTube, right? Yeah, I know.
Like I remember, and this is, I'm going to let you get out of here, but I remember when the Alberta Pro Wrestling Board was became a thing.
Oh yeah.
Like someone had to tell me about it because I didn't know what it was. Someone told me about it, but that's when I realized, people say that. I'm going to leave you guys with this thought. It's something I've been pounding on for a couple episodes now. We go on and on about how social media, Twitter in particular, is like a fucking wasteland of negativity, right? Just people talking shit. Is your dog there?
Yeah, he's
people talking shit and stuff on Facebook. And I thought back to that Alberta Pro Wrestling message board and thought, man, people were talking shit to each other in the year 2000 on that Alberta Pro Wrestling.
The board where you could just sign with a fake name. Yep.
Yeah. Actually, it was Apocalypse and I having a conversation about it because he was talking about how some of the guys would sign up under fake names and then talk shit or ask the fans what they thought of certain things. I thought that was pretty funny.
Put themselves over. That was always my favorite. Or it's like one person would always like a specific person's match every single time, even though the guy was the shits.
It's his mom putting him over.
Yeah.
All right, buddy, I'm gonna let you get out of here. Bobby Sharp, give my friend a follow at Bobby Sharp. Bobby should get Insta, all of the above, and make sure that you are at the Love Pro Wrestling show June 24th to see Bobby and his new boots come back to the wrestling ring.
Awesome. I hope to see everybody there. Thank you, Duke. It's a pleasure.
Thank you, man. Always an honor to talk to you, pal.
Have a good one.
You too.
Duke, you suck.
You shut your mouth.